Well, welcome back to another episode of the Cruise Conversations podcast. I'm Michael.
And I'm Frank.
And today's episode is episode number 65, and we're recapping my recent MSC Seashore sailing. Let's jump into it.
Hey, we're back, Michael. It's good to be back. We both had a cruise. I just got off Icon of the Seas. I look like a Oompa Loompa, dude. By like day 3, I had so much sun. It was like it was one of those cruises where you go in and we thought we were going to get rain every day. And we'll talk more about that next week. A little teaser. I think I'm going to bring my wife onto the podcast, potentially another guest. So stay tuned. May have 4 people on next week.
Nice.
So don't miss that one. But got a lot of sun. Good to be back. You just got off your cruise. We're going to talk more about that one today. I'm really, really excited to hear about MSC and your review. I think you bring a lot of experience, and so I'm excited to hear about that. But before we do, we got some cruise news from the last couple of weeks. First one, probably everyone's heard at this point, but the Royal Caribbean World Cruise, 274 nights, finally made its way back to Miami, which is crazy, dude. Yeah. Everyone's texting me. I think this was on today's show. It was on the Morning Brew, potentially, which is the news outlet that I use for, like, they send you the emails, recap or daily emails of your news. And they were talking about, the sailing and how, all the stops that they were able to hit, as well as just things that happen on the cruise. I think someone got pregnant on the cruise, and I think someone ended up potentially passing away on the cruise. I don't know all the details, but it was 274 nights. That's a long time, and they hit, so many countries, so many ports. It was just incredible. I loved following along on social media. I'm kind of like sad now that it's over a little bit, just because I feel like I was seeing so many cool things just through these people, and it's interesting because all these influencers kind of spun up from it. Like if you were on this cruise and you had a TikTok, you're automatically famous because you're just showing a really, really cool thing about, living on a ship for that long and just seeing some amazing places. So I don't know, maybe one day, Michael, we'll get to go on a world cruise. I don't think I would ever be able to convince my wife to get on a ship for that long, but it's just really kind of bittersweet, I guess, that it's over. And I know they're already working on plans to do another one in the future, potentially with a new class of cruise ship. So excited to see, what's to come in terms of the next world cruise.
So speaking of sailing the world, Frank, and, seeing new destinations, Greece kind of came out this week and kind of said they're going to have a new tax, right, coming to cruises. I mean, when you set sail to Greece, stop in Greece, they're saying it's about to be 20 euros per person starting next year. And, obviously we've kind of seen this with some other ports of calls around the world kind of charging a little more because you have the tourism coming in. You have a bunch of people coming in. I mean, it's something I see both sides of, right? I feel like some of the ports, your people don't all get off the ship, so it's kind of our way to make money for those people that aren't getting off. But I feel like Greece, if you're going to Greece, everybody's going to get off the ship there. So do you have any ideas?
I think it's just a crowd thing too. Like they also announced that they are going to start limiting cruise ships. I don't know if you saw that, but limiting the number of cruise ships, the number of passengers that come to certain ports. I think I talked about this last year on our Santorini, our whole Europe cruise. But Santorini was absolutely packed, probably worse than Disney World, just shoulder to shoulder when we were leaving there. So I could see the need for it, honestly. At least maybe just limiting the number. Maybe it's not like a tax, but limiting the number of ships that are in port each day. Yeah,
and I think even that's happening in Alaska too right now. I think it's Skagway that there's kind of been discussions with the town and the cruise lines and all that to, like you said, I think the Alaska season next year kind of start limiting the number of ships there as well. Because kind of like you said, at some point, when you have these bigger ships, it does become a lot of people in these small little places. And like I said, both sides. You get the tourism, you get the money coming into the local economy, but then also at sometimes too many people is just a lot.
Yeah. So Michael, speaking of crowds and ports, the cool thing that's happening this fall is Royal Caribbean is adding a new destination, Cabo Rojo in Dominican Republic. Oh, so nice. I haven't told my wife, but I'm actually looking at a Dominican Republic cruise for next year for us for a few nights, but I don't think it's going to stop here. But this destination looks really cool. It's going to launch October 2024 this year, and then that is on Adventure of the Seas, and then Oasis of the Seas will join that port next year in 2025. So pretty cool. You don't see often that we're adding new ports in the Caribbean. So it is nice to at least add new destinations, new opportunities. new adventures, right? Because at the end of the day, you get to go to a lot of the same places, and it's always trying to find, hey, what can I do that's different? What have I not seen yet? So this will be another port that we can add. And actually, I was walking in the Miami airport today, and I was thinking about Cuba. Remember like that short span of time where we could like take cruises to Cuba?
Real short.
Dude, because I saw a flight from Miami that was flying to Cuba, and I was like, man, part of me wishes that I got on one of those. Because like I didn't realize it was going to be so short, that it was only going to be like, what, a year, maybe 2 years? Maybe.
Well, I think that's just, the political conflicts. And
yeah,
all
no,
that
I know why.
countries.
And I know why it's not open, but like I'm just like, I wish I did get to do it.
Go, yeah.
So, because it's like something new, right? Like just a different port. So another exciting kind of new thing coming to Royal this year and next year.
Nice. And then the last piece of news we have is the Carnival Spirit actually kind of just kicked off 3 consecutive Carnival journeys, they're calling them, right? And these journey sailings, I think, are 9+ days. They're longer sailings. They kind of have different events throughout that kind of take some things from Carnival's past. That
they're trying to make
enjoyed.
it more like traditional cruising.
Yep. But they're doing some cool destinations. They're doing Alaska, Hawaii, and the Panama Canal. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, they've been doing these for the past couple of years on some of the kind of older, like I said, this is the Carnival Spirit, so it's an older ship, but like you said, doing these longer sailings, like you said, doing some of the more traditional stuff that people enjoy from Carnival's past. I know I haven't done one yet, but it'd be a cool, sailing to go check out someday.
Dude, it looks sick. And they're consecutive, so like you could technically stay on this cruise for, I want to say close to 60 days, maybe a little bit over, because I think one of them's 14, one of them's 19. It's a long time. You could technically almost do like a mini world cruise where you get to go to Alaska, Canada, Hawaii, Panama Canal. Like, that's awesome.
The Panama Canal would be a real cool cruise to do at least once someday.
Oh, for sure. That's also one that you don't really have to like necessarily get off to enjoy. It's kind of like people do Alaska. You can really just sit. You can do stuff in Alaska if you're young and have kids and all that, but you can also just sit on the cruise and just look out. And that's another one where I'm like, you can really just experience it from being on the ship. Which is really, really cool. So, well, Michael, I think that's going to wrap up our news. A lot of really cool things happening in the cruise industry. But first, before we get into our conversation for today, let's do some question of the day. So I had to find, something that was a little bit surprising. So my question is, fill in the blank this time. MSC is the blank largest cruise brand in the world. We're going to go based on passengers. So MSC is the blank largest cruise brand in the world. You see the answer? Like, do you think that people will get this?
Maybe.
All right, we'll see. Yeah, write down your
Probably
number.
not.
If you think you get, let us know if you get this. If it's too easy, we need to try to maybe just give us feedback. Is it too easy? We'll try to make them a little bit harder. But with that, Michael, we'll recap your recent sailing on the MSC Seashore. You sailed out of Port Canaveral. You went to Ocean Cay. You did an overnight in Ocean Cay.
Yep.
You went to Cozumel and you did Costa Maya. Let's get into it. So how was your travel and arrival down to Port Canaveral?
Yeah, so the travel and arrival down to the port went pretty smoothly overall. I mean, I drove down, so it was about a 7.5 hour drive. Stayed with our friend Chris, we've had on the podcast a couple times.
Shout out Chris.
Yep, at his place the night before. So I got in a Saturday. We did dinner that night, and then Sunday, hit up the port, I think about 11 maybe.
Okay.
I mean, it was a slower morning. And weren't really in a rush because, they give you the time that you can check in at the port. And everything I was reading said MSC wasn't strict. But, I also did one of the off-site parking lots. I think I did Park Port Canaveral, which I've done in the past before.
Is that the one where they get those almost blue buses? I think we've done it together, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, you park off at a different lot. I think the lot's different from when I did it years ago. But, you leave your car there. They come pick you up, throw your luggage in.
Do you recommend it?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, you save money at the end of the day. Versus, I mean, it's kind of whether you want to save money or you want to just have the convenience factor of parking right at the port. So, did that, headed over to the ship. And then I think I got there, like I said, a couple hours before my check-in time and got on no problem. I mean, there was no line or anything. You kind of just dropped your bags off at the porter, went up the escalator, went through security, and then within, I think, 10 minutes, I was on the ship.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy now, how smooth embarkation is. Just in terms of you do a lot of the things before, Yeah, you don't even have to like really bring much paperwork. You just kind of show up and everything's kind of already done. You've already checked in with your passport.
Yeah.
You get on the ship. That's really awesome. So, Michael, this was your first time on an MSC cruise. I'm sure that the check-in process was a little bit different. I'm sure like when you stepped on board, probably smelled a little bit differently, looked a little bit differently than what you're used to. Talk us through kind of your first thoughts and your first, what you did when you first got on. How was the muster process? Kind of your first opinions as you stepped onto this vessel.
Yeah, so when I got on the ship, Frank, we actually entered on deck 6, I think, which this ship kind of has a 3-deck high central atrium,
Okay.
I think it was. So, like I said, I got on at deck 6, and you could kind of see like the bar and all that down on deck 5, and obviously people down there having drinks already. And like I said, the atrium itself's multi-story, and they did a lot of like I'm sure we'll get to it at some point, the evening like parties here. And
yeah, I saw some of your content on. So you think you did like a white party down there?
Yep, and like on some of the different levels, they had little like stages they were able to use for the performers and dancers and all of that. But yeah, so got on, like I said, on deck 6, and then went to my room to drop off my backpack. So like I said, the porters had my 2 suitcases. Wanted to drop off the backpack. At this point, I think my room may have been done.
Okay.
Or it was the kind of thing they said you could drop off your stuff and leave. But like rooms, like I said, I got on later compared to other people, so my room was pretty much ready at this point.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, then obviously went to go do my muster drill. This they do a little bit different on MSC. I think I kind of did it backwards, what I was supposed to do. So I went to my muster station, right?
Kind of like what you do on every other one, yeah.
Yeah. And I couldn't even tell you where it was at this point, but I went to there, checked in, and then you had to go to your room and just watch the cycling video on the TV.
Okay.
And then once you finished watching the video, you called some number on the phone, it locked it in. That's how I did it. I think you were supposed to watch the video, call, and then go to the station. But, I mean, overall, the process was, pretty smooth.
Okay. Good. So, yeah, you said you called from the room. How was the room? What kind of room did you end up booking for the sailing?
Yeah, so I booked an interior room on deck 11.
Okay.
It was towards the back of the ship, but ended up being kind of real central to the things I was doing throughout the day. So location was perfect. The room itself was your standard interior room. Bathroom was a decent size, have the glass door showers, so those are nice. Like I said, you see a lot of those on all like the newer ships really these days. Had its own little, obviously, vanity desk area, had not a full couch, but like a chair in the room you could sit at, full floor-to-ceiling mirrors. And then the interesting thing with this is the little fridge that I typically have on Carnival or Royal is a mini bar.
Oh, wow.
And now, obviously, it's not free. You're charged if you take anything. But that was kind of the con of it. I was reading on the Facebook page, like, you can ask your steward to kind of take everything out of it so you can use it for storage. I don't know. I never told him to do it.
Do you typically use the cooler? I won't call it a mini fridge because I feel like it's more like a cooler. Do you feel like you use that on your cruises or?
I don't know. Probably for water bottles and stuff. Yeah. And like having the drink package, I was constantly getting a lot of water. So that was the only thing I probably would throw in there. So instead, I just had them up on the countertops. But yeah, overall, nothing too crazy. Your standard interior room.
So you probably checked out your room. You maybe explored the ship. What did you do this first day in terms of, did you get lunch on board? Did you take, like you kind of talking about on our preview episode, that you may do like a full walkthrough of the ship? Did you end up doing that? Like, what did you kind of do this first day before the sail away?
Well, a lot of the first day was spent wandering around the ship, trying to find my way around.
Yeah.
And I got lost many times. I would think I'm in one spot I wasn't. I was either on the wrong side of the ship, constantly looking at the different maps. Because like I said, you can look at the deck plans so many times before you get on a ship. But if it's your first time on a new class of ship, you're still going to get lost. I think by day 3, I kind of had everything down to a T, which I feel like is pretty good. I feel like most times it's like the second to last day.
Yeah.
You know your way around. So I learned it early. But yeah, so I kind of wandered my way around to some of the different venues, tried to figure out where some of the different pool areas were, some of the different lounges, all of that, and then ended up stopping into the buffet for lunch because I got to that floor, which was up on deck 16. And yeah, I mean, the first lunch I had was good. I mean, I think we'll get into the food probably later on in this, but I will say, I mean, that was one of my worries going into it, and the food did exceed my expectations. And even like that first lunch, I mean, I trying to remember what I had the first time. I think a little bit of like nachos at like a carving station. Yeah. I had a little bit of Indian.
Just a whole smorgasbord of random things.
A little bit of everything that first day. Like I said, I don't know if I was ready for lunch at the time, but like I said, I kind of just got to that part, sat down, had some of that, and then, like you said, kind of just continued wandering around until sail away. And then for sail away, I was actually already at dinner. I had an early dining time, 5:15.
Nice. How did you like that?
The time itself?
Yeah.
I mean, all right. So if there was like one...
If you had to go late or early, you would probably do early?
I'm a show person, so the show times on the ship were 7:30 or 9:30.
Okay.
Right? So it was one show a night. Each night was a different show. But the 3 dining times were 5:15, 7:15, 9:15. So... yeah, I mean, if I had to choose from the 3 knowing what was going on in the evenings, I'd choose 5:15. But when we get to talk about some of the other days, I mean, it is early at times.
Yeah. That's good feedback. Okay, so you talked about sail away, talked about your first day. Now let's kind of go through a bit of the ports, right? So the coolest thing about this itinerary was that you had an overnight in their private island. So kind of give us through, talk us through, what you ended up doing. I know when we talked last time, you were kind of just keeping it flexible, kind of just explore the island, relax. How did you feel like this island was overall? Were things laid out nicely? Was it easy to get off and on? And then how was kind of the overnight experience on this island as well?
Yeah, Ocean Cay was beautiful. I mean that's what I had heard going into it. It was a beautiful island, not as much going on as per se Coco Cay. And I mean, I think for the person, I mean, everyone's going to have kind of the things they prefer, whether they want to be all party during the day or kind of just have an area they can just go on the beach and chill. And so, yeah, like you said, I got off and, like I said, didn't really have a plan. So when you get off the ship and kind of get through security and all that, right off to your left is kind of like a tram that can kind of take you around the island. Obviously,
Disney, take notes.
Obviously, first day, I didn't really do anything with that. The line was long. I was like, well, I'm just going to walk. Because then straight ahead is kind of a bunch of different shopping area, excursions, all of that. And then you come to kind of the main bar for that area, which was a decent size.
Okay.
And now, like I said, all of that is kind of within before you get to the different beaches. But I forget how many beaches they say they have here on the island, but I mean, it's a good amount.
Yeah.
And each one's a little different. So like I said, I kind of just took the path and well, wherever it leads me, I'll go. And the first place I kind of came to was the main lunch buffet, right? And right now there's one on the island.
Okay.
Big buffet area, 2 sides to it. One thing to note is they're doing a lot of construction on the island right now.
Okay.
They're building a conservation center, new bars, I think, a new maybe beach area, a whole another lunch buffet area. So
because right now it's only 1 ship per day there, right?
Yeah, and I think it's going to stay as that. I think I'm trying to think how the dock was set up. I think it can only hold 1 ship. But I think to kind of make things closer, because I mean, if you were at one of the beaches far away from the current lunch buffet, you have a walk over to it. But like I said, got there, had lunch, super good. They had a jerk snapper.
Wow.
Which was delicious. Some jerk chicken, some of your standard beach barbecue sides. And it was good. I mean, I sat there, a bunch of tables in that area to sit, eat your food. And then, like I said, I kind of just kept wandering up the path. And another thing to note is the shade, it's hard to find, right? I mean, obviously this is a man-made
do they have
island.
Beach chairs and umbrellas and stuff?
So, yeah. I mean, you can rent umbrellas.
Oh, that's actually, okay.
Yep. Beach chairs are out. You just have to claim them, really. And then, like I said, man-made island, so a bunch of the palm trees and all the vegetation still growing. I mean, the island, I think we said in our preview episode 2019, I think. Yep. So, like I said, a lot of it's still growing. But both days I was able to find shade that I just threw my lounge chair under and chilled at really most of the day. The beach area I was at was actually a big like lagoon cove area.
I think I know which one. I think I've seen like the photos.
Yep. So no waves or anything. I think probably one of the larger beach areas on the island. And yeah, I mean, I really just chilled here. I brought my Bluetooth speaker, kind of just had music going quietly to myself.
Because they don't really have like music or like a DJ or anything like that on the island, right?
They do, actually. And I walked over towards it at one point. I think it may have been going on at another beach too.
Okay.
But at one point, like I said, I was at like the far left of this beach, and I could kind of hear, and I saw people like dancing out. So I kind of walked over that way, and they had some music and stuff going on. But yeah, so at this point, like I'm still trying to figure out the island, right? Because like bars, I will say there's currently not as many bars as like Costa Cay, for example. So from where I was at, I was next to one of like their food trucks, right? And the food trucks on the island, you can get like your standard burger, fries, brownies, but then they also sell like lobster sandwiches and I think lobster bacon grilled cheese and stuff like that.
Do you pay extra for that?
Those are extra.
Okay.
The other stuff's included. And I really wanted to try the lobster bacon grilled cheese. It just never worked out. I was never hungry enough to pay for it. But like I said, at this point, I was like, all right, I need to go find a bar. So I kind of just continued wandering up the path and found a bar right on the ocean.
Wow.
And no one was there, dude. I mean, probably no more than 20 of us in the beach area and the bar. You could walk right up to the bar and get a drink every time.
Wow.
And I think, so this, like I said, this was right off the coast. So, I mean, the waves were coming in pretty, I think it was more of a rock. I didn't get in the water here, but you could see kind of the people kind of struggling with the rocks to get in and out of the ocean. But like I said, I think I went over there and just chilled for another hour before heading back to my other stuff.
So you kind of explored, you enjoyed the day, you had some drinks. So did you like at some point make your way back onto the ship to grab dinner? Or how did that work before you went back out later?
Yeah, so the buffet on the beach closes at like 3:30 or so. Like there's a set cutoff time. And so they don't do dinner out there. So yeah, I went back on the ship, had dinner on the ship, and then ended up seeing the nightly show. Because like I said, the shows were 7:30, 9:30. Did the show. And then, so going into our sailing, people weren't sure. I mean, they have the lighthouse out there, right? And the lighthouse beach is closed. They're doing some like sand dredging and work on the island. And I think the bar was also closed on it during the day. But at the nighttime, people were wondering if we were still having the beach party.
Yeah.
We ended up having it. So
okay,
at
good.
this point,
you were worried about that.
Yeah. So at this point, like I finished the show and I knew we had to be back on the ship by like 11:30. So at this point, it's probably a little after 8. And I went up on one of the higher decks to look out, and you could see off in the distance lights and music and all that. So like, all right, I'm going to go find it. So I got off the ship, got back on the island, went the wrong way, kind of walked towards the way I had gone the day towards the buffet. I'm like, and at this point, everything's closed that way. There's nobody out there. I mean, I will say the island's real nicely lit at nighttime. So, I mean, you can walk the whole thing completely safe. But I had to do some backtracking and then find the beach party. And yeah, it was a good time. I mean, they had like fire pits out and the little dance area. I think they were doing like the limbo or something. I don't know. I found a beanbag. They were doing drink service out there. People.
Was it pretty like packed? Was it like a real party? Or do you feel like maybe some of the venues on the ship were more packed?
No, that's probably the most packed thing going. I mean, besides maybe like the 9:30 seating for the show.
Okay.
I mean, this was the party for the night. So, yeah, I mean, there was a good crowd there. And then eventually I ended up heading my way, like I said, up towards the lighthouse. And the bar was still open. I think I already had a drink I was carrying from the party itself. But the lighthouse area is super nice, too. I mean, nice dock area with couches and everything just to lounge out on the water. And then at that point, I mean, you could hear the party going in the distance, but then you also just had the waves pretty much there. So it was nice to just get away from the sound.
Yeah, so you mentioned you had to be back on board at 11:30. I was wondering, like, would they let you access the island all night? Makes sense that they don't, just from like a safety situation, right? Like,
yeah,
probably hard at 3 a.m. to have people, patrolling. It's easier just to make sure everyone gets on, and then at some point you reopen. But the ship still stayed docked, right? So they just kind of closed the gangway, closed the security. Everyone's on the ship, and then the next morning you were able to go back out, right?
Yeah, exactly. And kind of just backtracking back to like when I was at the lighthouse, when I was sitting out there, the party ended on the beach, and then it was funny. It transitioned to pretty much, I think, up on the pool deck, and you could hear the music.
Oh,
like,
wow.
It was almost like they like, all right, we're done here, and boom, the party, and then like I said, you could just hear the music going from there. But like I said, at that point, I mean, most people were heading back anyways, so like I said, I did the same thing. And yeah, I think the next morning, originally we were supposed to leave at noon.
Okay.
And I think you could get off at 7, 8 o'clock, but then they pushed it back till 4. So, I mean, we pretty much had a whole second day there, which I swear when I booked the cruise, it was the 2 full days. Then it got bumped up. So I don't know if it was due to the hurricanes
there was
and the weather and all that.
Yeah.
And then we were able to stay longer. I don't know. It was nice because, like I said, I had dinner at 5:15 anyway. So most days I was getting ready an hour early. So, like I said, that day too, got off, did the lunch, and then really
was it the same food?
No. I mean, I think the burger option was like the same in the buffet,
but
it was a different fish,
Wow.
Maybe the jerk chicken was still the same, but new options, new sides, and all that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, like I said, at that point too, I was impressed with the food on the island. Like I said, really just did the same thing that day. Went between the same stuff I did the previous day out there, and then got back on the ship and sailed off. So yeah, I mean, overall, Ocean Cay. I mean, if you have a sailing, especially if it doesn't overnight, do it.
Yeah.
Because the whole, like I said, just beach party thing at nighttime under the stars is super cool. You don't see that really at all these days.
Well, Ocean Cay sounds awesome. Hopefully I'll get the chance to experience it at some point. Would love to just check it out, and sounds like it's kind of more relaxing and kind of just more of a casual beach day, very easy beach day from what you're saying. So that's awesome that you had the overnight there. So your next stop was Costa Maya, Mexico. How was this port day? What did you end up doing here?
Yeah, Costa Maya was nice. I mean, like I said, I visited it for the first time last year and kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do for the day. Like we said, the water park was a little too expensive. I ended up going over to Manhalal, the little seaside at town place. And man, so I decided to walk. I mean, it said it was like a 30-minute walk. I'd read that online. I was like, been eating a lot of food. Be nice to get some exercise.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a clear path, 2 sides of the road, middle of it covered with trees, walking path.
Sounds beautiful.
And the more and more some of the taxi drivers are like, oh, like, you need a taxi? I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to walk. They're like, you don't know how far it is. And I was just like, I'm good. Trust me.
I'm all right.
Saw the sign. And I'm walking, and it's pretty much a straight shot, and then you take a left, right? And then it's far off. Well, as I'm just doing the initial path, all of a sudden it started to get a little darker out, started to get a little windy, and I was like, I need to get there. And I get up the end, and then when you take the left, you're not under trees anymore. You pretty much get to the one side of the road, and you're not covered at all. And I see, dude, the rain in the distance, and it's coming right at me.
It's hitting Manhalal.
Yeah, and I was like, oh. I immediately take my shoes off, pull out my flip-flops from my backpack, put those on, shoes in. I mean, I had a rain jacket. Wasn't the first thing, because at this point, I think I was trying to vlog, and I was like, oh, there's a lot to do in the spur of the moment. And then by the time I get to the end of the street and finally get there, the rain had passed. So,
okay, good.
Yeah, so, I mean, you know how the rain is in the Caribbean. It comes through and then it's gone. But, yeah, so I got there, and it ended up being a lot larger, like, strip than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there were many times. I mean, like I said, it pretty much just goes along the ocean, bunch of different beach clubs and restaurants and like little hotels, bed and breakfasts, that type stuff.
Okay, I think I've been there.
Maybe. I mean, like it's about. I mean, I think it's like a 5-minute taxi drive from the port area.
I think I've been there, but I did like a beach club for it. Is it on the beach, the strip?
Yeah. One side of it. I mean, I think the Crazy Lobster is one of like the popular beach clubs there. And I mean, yeah, a bunch of like I said, different vendors, street tacos, all of that. Ended up doing a massage on the beach.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, it was an hour long for $20. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I mean, it was relaxing. I mean, like I said, you just have the sound of the ocean really going, and I mean, yeah, I mean, that's really all I mean, I pretty much walked the strip down, came back. I mean, obviously, all the different little beach clubs have their massage, and I was
Yeah.
just like, no, I'm like, maybe on the way back. And then like I said, by the time I got all the way towards the end, I'm like, all right, turn around, did the massage, and then as I was going to leave,
Have you done a massage before?
first time actually.
Really? What did you think of the massage experience?
It was great.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tough to.
felt good. I mean, they were using like different lotions and stuff that smelt good.
Yeah.
And yeah, like
Scotty's a big, like, she loves a spa day, so we do
Okay.
a lot. So yeah, that's good. It's a good, like, relaxing thing, especially on vacation.
well, yeah, about to say for $20 too, you couldn't beat it because the people I was eating dinner with, they were saying they almost did one in the port area. It was like 55 for
Yeah.
the hour. So yeah, did that. And then, like I said, by the time I was getting ready to leave, you could see it was getting dark in the distance again. So I didn't chance it this time. Took a taxi back
There
to
you
the
go.
port.
Did you get, like, soaked the first time?
Oh yeah, I was,
Oh.
dude. I was, yeah, soaked. Backpack was soaked. Took my shoes and backpack. Or I mean, luckily the backpack held up pretty good. So it was just like the initial wetness on the shoes, but
Yeah.
eventually dried.
Dude, that sounds awesome. I'm glad that you got to get out a little bit in Costa Maya, even though you didn't really have a plan. No, this is awesome. This is a great example of, just kind of doing your research. You don't always have to sign up for a big, fancy $100 a person tour. You can just kind of create your own adventure, see some new things, walk
Yep.
the beach, get a massage, and have yourself a great day in port. So that sounds great, Michael. Your next stop was Cozumel, Mexico. I know
Yeah.
you've been there a couple times. What did you think of Cozumel?
Yeah, so this time I got off. I mean, like I said, I had a plan already in my head of what I wanted to do, and we were actually parked at like the downtown dock area. So I got off the ship, and actually, I didn't realize how like big like the little port area is of all the shops at that dock. I don't know if I've ever been to this dock, honestly. But once you got out of all that, I actually walked by Senor Frogs.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And walked past three of the people I had dinner with each night. Karen, Diane, and Chuck. And I mean, they were like, Michael. And so, yeah, talked to them for a little. I mean, they were off the ship much earlier than me, so they already had been eating and drinking and all that. And then my plan from there was really to head up along the coastline, kind of across from the ferry station was like this park area, right? Like a central parkish area. So walked over there first. I mean, pro tip, I filled my tumbler up with drinks on the ship before I
Yeah.
got off the ship. So kind of got over there, had a little of my drink, relaxed a little, sat there. And then there was supposed to be like a food market type thing. Open, or I don't know if it was open air or what, but my next stop was to go to that. And when I got there, I don't know if I got to like the back side of it because it was all just like souvenir vendor type stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I'm like, obviously I didn't have like cell service, but when I was on the ship, I had Wi-Fi, so I was taking screenshots of all the directions, and so I knew where I was going. But at this point, it was already like 1:30. I'm like, I need food. I haven't eaten anything yet today. So my last stop was a place I wanted to check out last year called Las Flamitas.
Okay.
And from the ship to walking, there's about a 20-minute walk total. Like I said, I was doing the other stops first, and dude, was the food here amazing.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of holding off from not doing like the street tacos and stuff in Costa Maya because I knew the next day I wanted to check out this place.
So this is like a
Authentic
okay.
Mexican restaurant. I
Oh,
mean,
full on restaurant.
well, I mean, yeah, it was
Not
sit
food truck,
down,
Okay.
Open air. I mean, when I got there, I think there were 2 other Americans there, and then they had left, and then after I sat down, it was just local after local coming in to either sit or take food to go.
What'd you get?
And boy, was it great. So I actually did 2 dishes. So
This is Michael. He'll order like a half plate of like meatloaf and a half plate of like something else.
well, I mean, I wanted to try
Yeah.
a couple
Win
different
in
things.
Rome, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the server I had, I mean, admitted from the start he didn't really speak the best English, but he kind of walked me through some of the specials for the day. So I had the chicken mole,
Okay.
which was served with kind of a white rice with like potatoes in it.
Oh.
And it wasn't your standard when you think of like Spanish rice or any of that.
Yeah.
With that and plantains and
Wow, that sounds.
for literally $8.50.
Wow.
Whole dish. Well, I mean, I'm sure we'll get the photos. Or I actually posted a reel on our Instagram, so go check out our Instagram, Cruise Conversations. But did that, and then I did a garlic shrimp dish, which I get at one of our favorite Mexican joints up the road.
I was just about to ask you how it compared.
And, I mean, dude, it was like 6 to 8 massive shrimp, a kind of Mexican spaghetti, like pasta on the side with different spices.
Dude, you're making me hungry.
The same rice and like a salad.
Oh.
And served with a massive stack of corn tortillas with like 3 different salsas to kind of just dip in and eat along with it. And that dish, I think, was $12. I think I ended up tipping
so you did
the guy
like a Mexican food tour this day, basically.
Pretty much. I mean, I literally spent, I think, $25 and had 2 full-on dishes and would go back there in a heartbeat. I mean, the food was amazing.
Way better than what we get in Charlotte at our local spot.
I mean, it's totally different. I mean, no refried beans, no Spanish. Like, it was just like different stuff on the side
I feel like
that
we
I typically
get like
don't think of.
The American version, and that's like not actually what they eat down there. You know?
Yeah.
That's so interesting. So that was about a 20-minute walk. So you ate that.
And then walked back, and that was my day in Cozumel.
Dude, that is awesome. I feel like people, so like the people that cruise and they're like, I love the Eastern Caribbean, because I do love Eastern Caribbean. I've not done Western Caribbean in a long time. That's on the list. Hopefully for next year or 2026. There's so many cruises at this point. But, dude, I want to go back to Cozumel and like try to find something that's local, because I feel like you hear about all these beach clubs, which is great, but there's so much good food, and like everyone raves about the food. So I'm glad that you got to try it.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps up your stops. Now let's kind of talk about your sea day, right? So this is a brand new ship. You got slides, you got all this new entertainment on board. So what did you think in terms of your sea day routine? Did you feel like you had I know you only had like 2 sea days on this cruise. Did you feel like you got into a routine on those days and kind of knew what you were going to do, or did you kind of just like fly by the seat of your pants?
Yeah, most of my sea days are kind of just to go with the flow type thing. I mean, I think I'd get up around 10 a.m. Like I said, with the early dinner time, I either would do like breakfast or lunch, kind of depending on the day. I think maybe one of the sea days I ended up having both. But yeah, I mean, not really too much. I mean, there were activities around the ship if you wanted to do stuff. But most my first stop each time would be the Brooklyn Cafe, which was the main kind of like coffee bar lounge area. Now, a thing to note with it being a European cruise line is most every bar has an espresso machine.
That's nice.
So you can get coffee literally anywhere around the ship. But this was kind of just like I said, kind of like just the cafe vibe area where I would kind of start. I mean, I'd get it in a to-go cup so I could go wander off wherever.
How was the coffee?
It was good.
You'd expect it to be good, right? Because it is like a European company. Usually they're known for their coffee.
It just depends who you get as the
That's true.
The person at times, because man, I mean, just think of your standard to-go cup size. I would do a double iced espresso without ask for a little bit of white chocolate sauce, because they only have so many like the different flavoring sauces. Dude, one of the guys I legit watched turn that bottle upside down and just keep pouring and pouring. And I could see the shadow of the cup was like a fourth of the cup of syrup. And
that sounds like Dunkin'. Someone's going to say something about that coffee. I feel like Dunkin' is so sweet to me.
Okay, well, I had like 2 sips of the coffee, and that was it. I think I ended up making a little affogato that day somewhere else on my own.
Gosh.
But yeah, I mean the coffee itself was good. But yeah, I would kind of get my coffee, either go get breakfast or lunch, depending on whatever time it was. Breakfast was done being served at 11. So if I was there before 11, I was doing breakfast. If not, lunch after. And then most of my days on deck 16, I think it was where the main pool area was. Now on this ship, the main pool area is kind of in the back of the ship, right?
Okay.
You have the main pool on 16, the adults only infinity pool down on 7 or 8. And then midships, the jungle pool area. And then between the jungle pool buffet was like the water slides water park area.
Okay.
So I kind of hunkered down between the water park and the main pool area because it was completely shaded on top. The main pool area really had no shade at all. And you know me, I burn. That would not have been smart. So kind of hunkered my stuff down there at a lounger. And then, dude, the water slide on this ship, you had like the main water park structure that had some smaller kid slides, but on one side of the ship was kind of like a racer body slide type thing. All had like the same tower you walked up. Or the right slide was like a tube slide, single or two-person tube, and it'd do a couple twists or turns before a massive drop out into like a runaway splash pad type thing. And especially those days I got back on the ship at Cozumel or Costa Maya, I would do this thing like 10 to 15 times
Oh my god!
in a row before I'm like, all right, I gotta go get ready for dinner.
Oh my goodness!
And one of the nights, the people were like, "Oh, Michael, you're late tonight." I was like, "Yeah, I rode the water slide one or two many times because if there was nobody in line to wait for the tube, you would just go take your tube and go back up." So,
dude, that is awesome, and it was actually a good slide.
Yeah, I mean, the drop at the end was fun each time, and I mean, my body weight. I mean, I'd go all the way out towards the end and then float back. But I mean, yeah, it was fun. Speaking of the slide, this was the slide that used to have like the VR attached to it. They, I guess, don't do it anymore. I mean, like the safety sign still mentioned the VR, but I mean, it wasn't anywhere to be found throughout the cruise. But yeah, I mean, besides that, my sea day was also just filled with going and having drinks at the bar.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the drink package. I think that's a good transition. So you did book your cruise fare.
Yep.
Came with the drinks, the basic drinks, and the Wi-Fi.
Yep.
How was the experience with the bars on board? Did you feel like it was worth it for you with the drinks to like do the upgrade? Did you feel like you wish you paid the additional surcharge to like upgrade even beyond what you had? Because I know it counts cocktails up to like 10. You're not really $10, right?
Yeah.
And you're not really a beer drinker, so beer, you probably maybe had a couple glasses of wine, but did you feel like it was worth it for you with kind of the way that you're drinking on board?
Yeah, like you said, my package was capped at I think $10, and then the next one went up to $14. So most of your standard cocktails fell within that $10 limit, depending on the liquor choice.
Okay.
So for me, most of the time during the days, I was drinking Tito's waters with splash of cranberry, and then in the evenings, I would switch to old fashions with Crown.
Okay.
So I mean,
you probably would have preferred like Woodford, but you didn't want to pay extra for it.
Yeah, Woodford, for example, it was the $14 limit, so I had to pay the surcharge, and depending, I did the math, and I think if I were to upgrade to the higher value drink package, I'd have to have like 45 drinks or something.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, yeah,
45 of the upgraded drinks.
The upgraded drinks, yeah.
I just don't think it's really worth it.
Nope. And that's the thing. I mean, like the day at Ocean Cay, I was drinking like Miami Vices and all that. But at some point, I mean, it just becomes a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
Like I said, the Tito's waters with the cranberry, or kind of just switching to old fashions, or just Crown on the rocks by the end of the night. I mean, I would say that's the one little bit of a negative compared to kind of your Carnival, your Royal. I mean, we've talked about how I prefer kind of the bars with their own specialty menus and some of the other fancier cocktails the lines are rolling out these days. Like an espresso martini would have been in the $14 limit, so never had any of those. Like I said, those were real. I mean, the Tito's waters or the old fashions were really all I was drinking.
Yeah, probably less calories, and you probably felt a little lighter because when you do add in all the sugar and all those cocktails,
yeah,
and then like heartburn becomes a big thing. Like if you're
trust me, I bring plenty of Tums with me.
Yeah, that is like
those all day.
You eat a lot more than you probably do at home. You're drinking a lot more than you probably do at home. So for me, that's always something that I deal with when I drink those sugary drinks. I mean, you have to have a couple, because you're on a cruise, but definitely one of those things.
Now, I will say the bartenders though are great. A lot of them are super lenient, always pouring doubles or just making you two drinks at the same time. Because like I said, there's no drink limit, like number of drinks you can have in a day. But yeah, I mean, the bartenders were great.
I like that. Because then you can try more things. Like if you want to try a drink and you don't like it, you're not down one drink, versus.
And I truly don't know if if it's in like you can order two, because there's no time limit between drinks either. So yeah, I don't. I mean, they just
felt
sometimes
like all-inclusive vibe, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, because that's the thing. They would already kind of ring you in, and they'd be like, "Oh, you want a double?" And I was just like, "Yeah, sure. If I'm not getting charged, do it.
Yeah, why not?"
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, overall, the drink package for the price I got it for was great. I mean, like you said, it included the Wi-Fi too, and the Wi-Fi ended up working great throughout the entire sailing as well.
Good. So sounds like drink package was a good value for you to add on with your cruise fare. The Wi-Fi was a good add-on as well. Let's talk a little bit more in detail about the food. So I know that you ate in the main dining room. You were talking about maybe doing one of the specialty restaurants. Did you get around to doing it, or did you pretty much just eat in all of the complimentary venues?
Yeah, so the specialty I was looking at doing was the Mexican. It was like all you could eat for $18. I mean, after I had that meal in Cozumel, I was like, it's not going to live up to it for being just a couple dollars cheaper.
Yeah.
And it ended up being, so yeah, like you said, I was in the main dining room every night, and walking in, obviously didn't know the size of my table, ended up being seated at an 8-top.
Dude.
And not like really knowing anybody. I was like, oh man, I'm like, this is either going to go great or go bad. But like I said, shout out the from night 1 and on, I was with a group of 3, Karen, Diane, and Chuck. And then on night 3, we had Dave and Sarah join us. And for the whole rest of the cruise after that, I guess they too were in a later seating, but enjoy the show. So they swapped to ours as well. But I mean, like I said, I mean, it was.
Would you guys go to the shows together, like with your group, or were you pretty much just like after dinner, would you guys hang out at all?
Yeah, no, I was kind of just the after dinner thing. All right, have a good evening. I mean, we all, I think, would go to the 7:30 show, but there'd be time to kind of go do whatever.
Before,
yeah, and then have a good day tomorrow, and then we would come back in the evening and
catch
recap
up
our days.
Yeah,
I mean, it ended up turning out nice. I was nervous because I've never been seated with others at dinner before like that.
But it is like a traditional cruise thing, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it ended up being a good experience. The food itself in the main dining room was real good. I mean, one thing to note with MSC is, I mean, we were able to order multiple appetizers, but they strictly limit you to 1 dish for dinner, or it's a $5 upcharge per additional.
Interesting.
Yeah, where I know Carnival, I don't know how Royal is. Carnival lets you do 2, and then 3 and on, it's a $5 upcharge.
I've never.
I don't know.
I feel like I've ordered 3 entrees on Royal before and never paid it.
Now I know one thing: I could not order 3 entrees anymore these days. I feel like.
Yeah, I honestly go more for the apps. Like I love the apps.
Exactly, the apps are always the ones I'm like, all right, what am I gonna narrow it down to, and then still get 2 or 3 of them.
But overall, the food was good. They had different menus every night, and there were there things that they kept the same day over day, like kind of the classics, or.
Yep. So different menu each night, like you said, had some classics on it for the apps and the entrees and dessert. Some, like I said, some would change each night. I think every night got something that was new to the menu. I mean, your standard stuff was like the chicken, the salmon, the steak, kind of that type stuff. We had their formal nights called gala night. For that, I didn't see anyone get turned away. But supposedly they are strict on making sure you're in pants and not shorts that night.
I like that.
And obviously had lobster and a lobster wit shrimp dish on the menu, so I ordered that. I think there was your
how was it?
Prime rib. Good, yeah. I mean the lobster was actually big too, so had that. There, one of the last nights was like an Italian night, so more just I mean, this was the last night of the sailing. They actually like decorate the tables too with the napkins are red, green, and
that's awesome.
White, and they did like a little song and dance type thing.
That's cool.
To Italian music. Some people started waving the napkins.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't have anything bad per se in the main dining room at all.
What would you give it? 1 to 10 overall?
Maybe a solid 8.
Okay, that's good. That's a good review.
Well, that's the thing. Like I said, obviously the food was the thing I was a little bit more worried about. But the main dining room, like I said, was good. The buffet, too, was much better than I expected. I mean, you see pictures of, like, the breakfasts, and I feel like people always post the pictures of the Pop-Tarts and the waffles that look like Eggo waffles and all of that. I did not have a single waffle, pancake, French toast, any of that on this sailing, because there was much more different varieties of food. You know, empanadas, breakfast empanadas.
Ooh.
Had those multiple days.
You know what's funny? When I was in Italy, I'm thinking like European culture, like a lot of it was just like meats and cheeses and things like that for breakfast. And then they did like a scrambled eggs for us because we're American and bacon. But like a lot of it was like, like a different kind of, they would do like their pastries. Did they have like a lot of pastries there?
You had your croissants and rolls and chocolate croissants and all that. But yeah, I mean, like empanadas, croquettes.
Yeah.
This surprised me, a fried rice station where they
Wow.
made fresh fried rice in front of you. And
Eggs.
well, exactly. I'm like, sure, I'll try it. And one day was normal fried rice, one day was shrimp, and one day was beef, and they would cook it right in front of you, the different
Crack the
oils,
eggs?
all that. Well, no, over to the side, they had eggs cooked medium on the line. I'd get one of those, throw it on my rice, dude. The dude who made just the standard fried rice the first day, probably some of the best fried rice I've ever had. And I've
Wow.
never had fried rice for breakfast before. So it was just like some of these.
Now this is like a new thing you're gonna bring home.
I legit, yeah. Like I said, I had it 3 of the days, but like I said, it was just some of like these, a naan bread
Okay.
with steak, pepper jack cheese, and a medium egg on top.
Ooh.
It just did, and it was good.
It's good. I mean, I feel like you would do at home like steak and eggs and have like a bread to dip or whatever, you know?
Yeah. So like I said,
Is this becoming like a food podcast? Or?
I mean, you know, I love food and can talk food all day, but like I said, just like those things, I stood out to me because, like I said, going into it, I didn't realize it had some of those extra breakfast like I think some of the variety overall is more than Carnival and Royal has for breakfast in the buffet. Now, obviously, if you don't like that type of stuff and you're just doing your standard waffles and pancakes and all that, then
Maybe it's not as good.
it is what it is. But like I said, the buffet always had good food. And then the last thing I would do each night was the late night buffet, which went from 10 to 1. And this, like you said, had kind of like a nacho bar area, salad type stuff, different sandwiches. But then this is also where I'd have the pizza each night.
Yeah, how was the pizza? Was it the best pizza?
I would say it's the best at sea.
Really?
And it wasn't like many variety. I mean, you had your cheese, your pepperoni, and then like a veggie type thing. I think it was like
like a deluxe or something.
Yeah. And like the whatever that was in the center was kind of like your the Chicago style, kind of like the thicker.
Okay.
But on the sides it'd be the pepperoni and cheese. And dude, it's legit. Just walk up, you take your slices, your oregano, red pepper, Parmesan cheese type stuff, big slices, and they're just I mean, it's there all day. They're cranking it out all day. I just have it in the evenings, but it was delicious.
Dude, that sounds really good. I love some late night. Who doesn't love
I know, yeah.
pizza after a couple cocktails? You know, it's...
Well, sometimes I would be at like the nightclub area. I'd leave it, go have my pizza, and then go back.
Why not? Yeah.
The first night, I didn't realize the pizza wasn't like 24 hours.
Oh.
And I left the nightclub after 1, and I go to the buffet, and they're already cleaning. I'm like, oh, no pizza? And they're like, oh, no, it's closed for the night. I was like, at least I know
that
for the
is
future
something
nights.
different. Yeah. Because Royal...
Another thing to note. Yeah.
All right. So I'll start this. We're wrapping up now, but Scotty came to me. We were just on Icon. She's like, why do you love cruising so much? And I really had to like take a moment to reflect about it because I know that's like, I love it. And it's like, sometimes you love things and it's hard to describe why, you know, like, why do I like to do certain things? But one of the things that I think I come back to is entertainment. And that's what distinguishes a cruise and going on a cruise versus going to a hotel for me, like, and staying somewhere is that you've got cruise directors, you've got entertainment staff, you've got a whole itinerary of activities that you can either go to or you can decide not to, right? And that's the nice thing is like you can travel with different people. So being that that's kind of like why I love to cruise, I want to hear, I know that's kind of something that you also are passionate about. How did you feel like the shows and entertainment? I know you talked a little bit about how you had a different show every night. How did you feel like it kind of compared to some of the experiences you've had on Royal and Carnival? And especially during the days too, like when you're at Sea Days, you know, did you feel like it was lacking did you feel like it was just more of a relaxing cruise and you were cool with it? Or do you feel like there were opportunities where you're like, hey, we could, I'm kind of missing this a little bit?
Yeah, I'll just quickly hit on the day to start with. I mean, like you said, really only had like 2 sea days when you throw in like the Ocean Cay days. So those are hard to judge. I mean, I would walk through some of the lounges and they were doing little things, but the evenings, like you said, so the theater each night had the 7:30 or 9:30 seating for whatever the show was for the night, and the theater would get packed. But I mean, this was really your only timed show for entertainment, right? I mean, like I said, the theme changed each night. Most were like, I mean, obviously musical acts and dancing and all that. The first night was kind of like travels through Europe and like European and all that. That's probably one of my favorites. One night was like Broadway hits. One night was just like girl singer hits, rock hits. One night was the comedian. And he was kind of early on, and it was a family-friendly show. And then he ended up doing adults-only show later on in the cruise. One night there was a magician. It was all good. I mean, obviously, I think the production quality is obviously higher on Royal and Carnival.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, variety of shows, no. I mean, that was really about it. Now, during this sailing, I actually had 3 nights back-to-back of fantasy football drafts.
Oh, yeah.
So that kind of killed some time there for a couple hours each night. But, I mean, there were other forms of, like, musical entertainment around the ship. So you had the dueling pianos.
Oh, yeah.
Which I listened to most nights. Great, because kind of, like, layout of the ship, the casino area, it's kind of hard to describe. On, I think, deck 6 is kind of where the pianos are, right? Next level above is kind of casino bar area, casino, where the theater comes out, and railing, so people would kind of stand there and listen on that. And then it went one deck higher, too.
Okay.
Up on deck 8, which is where the...
And that's in, like, the Centrum area? Or is that...
So this is kind of like its own little... It was almost like 2 Centrum areas, right?
Okay.
You have one which was 3 stories, like the casino, or not the casino, like atrium bar area type thing with some of the other bars and stuff. This was, like I said, casino on one level, and then up on deck 8 was a sports bar all on one side of the ship, and then the Brooklyn Cafe coffee shop all on the other side of the ship.
Okay.
So you had the dueling pianos there, and then the Brooklyn Lounge each night kind of had different performers playing in there, which I caught a night or 2. But yeah, I mean, overall, besides like that main show was kind of just more musical around the ship. So probably, I mean, like you said, for you who's used to your aqua shows, your ice skating, comedy, like the number of different types of entertainment, you're not going to get that on this MSC ship.
Got it.
And then kind of the other main thing going on the evening was the different theme parties each night. So these would either kind of, like I said, either take place obviously out on the beach for the Ocean Cay Day, in the central atrium area, or some nights, we haven't mentioned it, but La Cabaret Rouge was a 2-story kind of, I mean, it becomes the nightclub at night, but they would start like the main theme party for the night and kind of get all the energy and people in there. And then after a certain time, it would kind of go adults only. But that's kind of another thing I'd kind of go stop by most nights, because you had sometimes the bar there to get super crowded, and I'd go walk over to the casino bar and get a drink over there and go back. But another real nice just lounge area on the ship, and kind of all throughout the ship's beautiful, whether it's different artwork or like going into La Cabaret Rouge, it's like this dome tunnel thing you walk through that the lights change colors.
Oh, that's cool.
And they have like a fake hot air balloon with LED screens behind it that make it look like a photo op that makes it look like you're flying over Paris. Wow. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, so the nice thing, like I said, where my room was situated, I could go down the elevator all the way. My dining room was right there. Go all the way up. Buffet was right there. Or down, and La Cabaret Rouge was right there. So didn't really know that when I picked the room, but it ended up, like I said, working out nice. As far as kind of just like any other things to point out about layout of the ship, you asked if I did any of the other specialty dining. Obviously, I didn't. On the back side of the ship, down on deck 7 or 8, I think, is kind of this whole stretch of all their specialty dining.
Okay.
So you have the cocktail bar, which I was at a night or 2, a wine bar cellar area, then like their steakhouse, their hibachi, their seafood restaurant.
Yeah.
And I guess it just, I mean, the whole, that part of the ship just feels upscale too. I mean, just based on everything they did, like with that area of the ship, the decorations, just like the vibe overall.
Kind of like a Central Park.
Yeah, but indoors and totally different.
Different, but like they still made it feel like a little bit more upscale because it's holding.
Yeah. The only weird thing is like walking that during the day to go out towards the infinity pool in the back of the ship
Just like
felt weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously it was all closed during the day, so it didn't matter. But
anything else that you liked or didn't like about the ship layout overall compared to what you've seen on other ships?
not really. I mean, it was just different. I mean, by the time you found your way, I mean, it had cool features like the Bridge of Sighs thing up top. I mean, that was super cool. Like walking and getting videos and pictures there. The panoramic, like see-through elevators in the back of the ship, kind of looking out that way of the infinity pool and all that. That was super cool. Didn't really even talk about the jungle pool, but like the last sea day, that's where I spent most of my time was that pool area because it was covered. And I mean, up in that area too, they have things like the ping pong and like the kids clubs and the arcade. And I mean, there's a lot to this ship. I mean, obviously I knew it was on the ship, but I mean, overall, I mean, it's a beautiful ship with a lot to do. And I mean, when we started the podcast, the reviews on MSC at the time weren't the best. Something we talked about have improved over the time. And I mean, I would book another one next year. You know, you have the MSC World America coming here to the States. I mean, it's going to be a new ship. I mean, you have the World Europe over there in Europe right now. But I mean, I'm interested to see an even larger ship from them. Because like I said, this ship overall was beautiful. I never found myself bored or anything.
Yeah.
Always had something to do. And
how were the crowds on board?
Not bad. I mean, the shows actually kind of filled up. I mean, the one thing you had to RSVP for the shows each night.
Okay.
Which those you could either do on your phone. I don't even show. I got my little MSC band here. Around the ship, all around the ship, there's like touchscreen panels where you can go click theater shows. You scan your wristband.
Do they give you those, or do you buy those?
You had to buy them. I think it was like 1 for $10, and then the more you bought, the price dropped. But I mean, yeah, you could use it for your room, the tap for drinks. Like I said, the RSVP to some of the touchscreen things, and you just click the show time, click your name, check in, and then just scan it on the people's phone or iPad thing when you got there. But yeah, no, crowds are never bad. I mean, never really waited for anything. I think this ship holds just over 5,000, and I think I heard we were like sailing at 4,200.
Okay, so
crowd is a little older overall. I mean, obviously school's back in session. There
not
were
a party
kids.
vibe, not as much of a party vibe as Carnival, or
age-wise, no. I mean, like at the nightclub, like at La Cabaret Rouge each night, like you would see more people our age, but then during the day, I mean, I don't really know where they were. I mean, it kind of felt older. Like I said, I was kind of hanging out in the water park area more, so that was kind of like more families too there. But yeah, no bad crowds or anything.
I was gonna ask about disembark to kind of wrap up. I imagine it was pretty smooth and no issues, or very similar to what you've experienced in the past, or
dude, I did the self disembark, so I just walked off with my luggage, literally got off the elevator, walked right up to scan, and was off.
Facial recognition.
Facial recognition once I was down
in
the area below, but like no line or anything to get off the ship. Like you said, walked right up, did the facial recognition, and then was on the shuttle going back to my
all
car.
These new cruisers, if you just started cruising within the last 3 years, like I don't even want to hear about like any issues at disembarkation, because like you remember what it was back in the day, man. It was like lines wrapped through casinos and all around the ship. It's just like now, I don't know if the ships are just getting there earlier, or if like I think maybe the facial recognition, all the technology that's come out, it's just so smooth now.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, it was just all the walking. I mean, to get from one place to
all
another.
the way
Besides
down.
that, I mean, once I was off, waited for the shuttle, went back to Port Canaveral, got in my car, and
headed home.
Took the drive home, yeah.
So let's wrap up. I know this was a longer episode, but wanted to kind of hear more detailed review of the ship comparison.
Yeah.
You know, you've been on some of the best with Royal, with Wonder of the Seas, Harmony of the Seas. You've been on some of the best with Carnival, with Mardi Gras Celebration. Now you're coming on MSC with mixed reviews. You know, even on our travel agent groups and stuff, we hear people that are like, don't ever recommend this to your clients. You know, how would you compare? How would you compare MSC to what you've kind of experienced on other lines? Sounds like you'd be willing to go again, but where does it kind of fall in the mix for you?
Yeah, I mean, overall, like before we started recording, I told you it's probably my third favorite ship class overall right now.
Like it's above, basically saying like
Any of the older Royal or Carnival I've done, it's above those for sure.
Independence?
Yeah. I like the ship more than I liked Independence.
Wow.
Like I said, the negatives you always heard was, oh, the food ain't the best. The food was good. The staff isn't friendly. Everybody was super friendly. I had a great room steward who every time I came walking up, oh, Mr. Michael, and
yeah,
a lot of like even like the bartenders would, after they scanned you, like look at and call you by your first and last name or first or last name. So super friendly overall. I mean, yeah, I mean, like I said, I really no bad experience for me on it. I mean, I know a lot of people say, oh, like you have to book in the yacht club. I wasn't in the yacht club. And
I know because we had Megan on recently, and she probably scared you a little bit with her review.
Yeah, and it was funny. I was listening to a podcast before I went, and it was somebody who's done both, and they said they had a better experience not on the yacht club. So, I mean, at the end of the day, the cruise is going to be what you make of it, the staff and people you interact with. But I say if you go in it with a positive attitude, I mean,
open mind,
I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
You know, when I was sailing this, my parents were also sailing on a Carnival cruise at the time, and I think they were on the Sunrise, and they just said, I mean, their experience wasn't the best this past week, and they're ones that have sailed Carnival for
many
years. They've done a little bit of Royal. I don't know if they did end up ever doing a Celebrity or not, but they're like, like we're kind of at the point we kind of want to sail more people our age and maybe go try out some other lines and all that. And for them, I mean, I told them, I'm like, I think this is a ship y'all may actually enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
would you recommend it more for someone that has kids or more for people like your parents' age that are a little bit older that don't have kids and are kind of looking to escape? Or do you feel like it doesn't really matter?
Yeah, I don't know if age matters. I mean, there's obviously like one of the nights at dinner, like I said, I asked, I'm like, is there mini golf on this ship? And all of them were like, we haven't found it either if there is.
Yeah.
So like things like, I mean, there was like a sports court area. The water park water park play like is a good size. It's multi-levels. So, I mean, there is stuff to do to keep and I mean, they have the kids clubs and all that. I mean, obviously, one of the things is pretty cool. They have a partnership with Lego. So they have like full size like Lego things around the ship. And I actually they sell like little MSC Lego cruise ships. I actually built it during the app game earlier before I came over, but
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I mean, obviously I played with Legos growing up, so cool little partnership. But yeah, I don't think age, I mean, really, I mean, I feel like any age could have a good time on this ship because it is a little more laid back than like the Go, Carnival or even Royal at times, with like how much entertainment there is on the ship. To feel like you have to do everything on those lines. Or like I said, this line, there is stuff that you can do or you can just relax and take it easy. So overall, yeah, good experience. I would sail it again.
Michael, thank you for your review.
Hey, you next week, because you just got off a ship too.
I just got off Icon, so next week, make sure you tune in for that one as well. But this was a fun one. I really, really appreciate it. Hey, also, MSC is always one of the cheapest options. So if you are looking for a good deal, we've been booking some of our clients on MSC. So if you're looking for a good deal, looking for some extra onboard credit that you wouldn't get if you didn't book with a travel agent, Michael and I would do that for you. We'll give you as much onboard credit as we can. So if that's you, make sure you reach out to us on Instagram at Cruise Conversations. You can fill out the form, which is in the link of this podcast, or you can shoot us a text at 704-313-8556, and we will pull some pricing for you.
Yeah, and hey, be on the lookout just our social media in general. I mean, I think that was having Wi-Fi on the ship, I tried to like post a little bit like as things were going on, but we've also both been vlogging a little. Yeah. Obviously, Frank, you've released two
I'm working on
vlogs
3
now.
I was trying to get the third one up before Icon.
Okay.
I just had too much going on that week so that one's coming hopefully within the next week of this releasing, and then we'll have at least a few episodes of that. We'll have our MSC.
Exactly, yeah. So there'll be more MSC footage out there or posts on Instagram with some of the different food and activities and all that I did. Obviously, you'll have your Icon stuff coming up. So, yeah, there won't be any lack of content. There will be so much content. So stay tuned. Make sure you follow us on social media. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube so you can see the latest from us there. But question of the week before we wrap up,
today. So this has been a great episode. But MSC is the blank largest cruise brand in the world. The answer, Michael.
Number 3.
Yeah, so it goes Carnival, Royal, MSC, then Norwegian.
Wow.
I don't know if I think we haven't done this one before, but I was surprised by passengers that they've got, I believe it's 22 ships in the fleet now, maybe 23. But a lot more than you think. They're going to a lot of destinations. I believe it's over 70 different countries.
Wow.
Tons of destinations. So really, really cool. Like I said, if you want to hear more about pricing and unique opportunities, whether it's in the U.S. or even Med, we can definitely pull that for you. With that, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Cruise Conversations podcast, and we will see you back here next Wednesday.